A lot of supplement brands chase trends, but if you're serious about your health, we know research-backed science is what actually moves the needle. Momentous works with the best brains in human science to create every formula, and every batch is made of pure ingredients, tested for safety, and does not contain fillers. So you get the best long-term results possible. Creatine isn't just for muscle gains, it's essential daily fuel for your brain, body, and long-term performance. Momentous CreaPure Creatine is backed by leading performance experts like Dr. Andrew Huberman and Dr. Stacy Sims. Sourced exclusively in Germany, CreaPure sets the gold standard for creatine, delivering the purest form, creatine monohydrate, that's rigorously washed and never cut with fillers. With over 2,000 five-star reviews, over 112,000 customers have seen the results firsthand. With Momentous, the fundamentals are done right. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners up to 35% off your first subscription order with promo code ACAST. Go to livemomentous.com and use promo code ACAST for up to 35% off your first subscription order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code ACAST.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Hello and welcome to mini episode number 480 of Real Life Ghost Stories. And I have 2 spooky stories for you today, and the last story comes from September the 15th, 2024. And story number 1 comes from Gary. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you just know and can feel it deep in your bones that something is very, very off? You know, when you get that strong, uneasy gut feeling telling you that evil is lurking just around the corner or that something is very wrong. Well, back in the 80s, while along on a business trip with my dad visiting customers throughout Mexico, right from the get-go, I had immediately a strong intuition that shit was about to get real. As it turned out, not only did it get very real, but it also hit a giant fan. We had just crossed the California-Mexico border when the subtle signs of our pending doom started to appear. And it all began with the radio. The song Somebody's Watching Me by a band named Rockwell had just been released. And during our 40 or so minute taxi ride to our first motel, I kid you not, it must have played on the radio no fewer than 3 times. Google it and carefully listen to the lyrics, and you'll get a feel for what I'm talking about. To this day, I'm still fully convinced that some unknown invisible force or entity was trying to send us a warning. Not only was it the song's creepy lyrics, but I believe that there was something far, far more sinister going on here. One time it aired, the DJ commented jokingly at the end of the song something like, "Yes, be very afraid, he is indeed watching you, so be careful." I remember laughing at this at the time, but little did I know where things were headed. On another occasion, when this same song was played, dubbed over the music, and in a very deep, creepy voice, someone ominously growled,
"I am coming to get you. There is no place to hide."
And once again, I couldn't help but just to laugh. After a very uncomfortably long, bumpy and sweaty cab ride, seeing as there was no air conditioning and us having no choice but to roll down the windows in the scorching 100+ degree heat, we finally arrived at our motel. Well, what they had advertised and claimed to be a motel anyway. We were located far from any tourist area, in a very remote farming community, so it lacked any of the glitz and glitter amenities like you'd typically expect to see in any of the usual tourist trap areas. Once having paid and exited the taxi, my dad and I couldn't help but to then immediately turn to look at each other, with eyebrows raised, wondering what the hell we had just gotten ourselves into. There we stood in a cloud of dust, clutching our luggage, standing at the entrance to what can only be described as a creepy, rundown, hills of eyes type of abandoned trailer park. Our so-called motel room ended up in fact being nothing more than one of about a dozen or so rusted out and decrepit-looking camping trailers, which had been retrofitted with a very large clear glass sliding door on the one side, which then allowed all and any passers-by to easily look in, to see exactly what we, like a couple of goldfish in a tiny aquarium, were doing. After tossing our suitcases into the trailer and seeing as we were both starving, we headed straight over to the so-called on-site restaurant. Surprise, surprise, nothing but a couple of rusty, sketchy-looking barbecues sitting next to a few rotted-out wooden picnic tables. The menu was handwritten on a piece of paper in Spanish and included only 3 entrees. Me thinking it sounded kind of exotic and promising, I chose the filete de mer. Or was it bistec de pescado? Not that it really mattered in the end. When they eventually brought it over and presented it to me on a large floral design plastic plate, and then dramatically plopped it down in front of me, my eyes bulged and my tongue immediately contorted into a disgusted gag reflex pose. There, lying lifeless and defeated on my plate, was a barbecued giant sea slug. Now I fully understood where the de mer came from. As I sat there, desperately sawing back and forth trying to cut even just the tiniest slice into my massive oceanic mollusk with the provided flimsy plastic knife and fork set, and my dad sitting next to me laughing hysterically, we both suddenly noticed some creepy looking dude staring straight at us. He was slinked back a ways from the picnic tables, kind of hiding in the shadows, leaning backwards up against a tree trunk, smoking a cigarette, with one leg bent up on it and the sole of his shoe resting flat against the bark. He had these wild, crazy eyes and long, curly, dishevelled hair, looking a lot like a Hispanic version of Charles Manson. My dad said not to stare back at him because you never really know what the hell goes on in some people's heads. We occasionally side-eyed him, seeing that he continued to glare at us as we ate our meals and never seemed to take an eye off us. After about half an hour, we paid our bill and then headed back to our trailer. We dared not look back in his direction, fearing that this might entice him. Once back in our pretend motel room, we washed up and got ready for bed. And before we could go to sleep, we hit our next snag. We discovered that the lock to our sliding door was broken and that there was no way to fix it. And with it now being pitch dark out, it was way too late to try and move elsewhere. I got creative and searched outside beneath some nearby trees for a tree branch or a stick that I could wedge between the back of the sliding door and its frame, so as to at least give us some degree of mental peace and safety. And on top of that, I found some empty tin cans, which I then stacked on top of each other behind the closed door. So should anyone try to break in through the night, they'd all noisily come crashing down to warn us. We were both so bloody tired that mentally we had no choice but to accept these terms in order for us to at least get some sleep. Then our heads finally hit our pillows. And wouldn't you know it, we were woken in the middle of the night by the sound of the tin can castle collapsing and the falling cans dinging off each other. We both immediately sat up to see our same creepy looking dude from the diner just standing there with his face pushed tightly up against the glass of our sliding door and staring right at us. He then proceeded to stick his tongue up against the glass and then slowly dragged, or rather more like licked, about 6 inches straight upwards. And the unforgettable, evil grin that was on his face as he did this was something beyond horrifying. My dad and I both screamed, and then he just slowly walked away, looking over his shoulder and smiling at us. Neither one of us slept a wink after that. I remember the next morning when my dad and I arrived at his first customer's office, and how when my dad described everything that had happened to us the night before and during the middle of the night to the client, his eyes suddenly widened and his mouth dropped open. And then, as best he could in broken English, he said, "Did he look anything like this man?" as he held up the local morning newspaper, which showed a mugshot of our same creepy dude on the front page, and included the heading, "Escaped psychopath seen in local area." I wanted to point out that the headline was actually written in Spanish, but I wasn't even going to attempt to pronounce those Spanish words because I felt like it would just end up being offensive, you know. On a completely unrelated note, I was in Copenhagen recently and I booked everything last minute, as is my wont. I do that quite regularly. It drives a lot of people in my life bananas, but it's just something that I do. I don't know why I do it. I'm quite organised in all other aspects of my life, but when it comes to travelling, I'm a lastminute.com kind of girly. I will book my flights and accommodation the day before I need to leave, right? And as such, through my own fault, of course, I ended up staying in a place in Copenhagen that was essentially just like a converted garage, like a car garage. And my door was a glass sort of French door that opened directly out onto the street. So the entire time that I was there, I had to have my curtains closed all the time because otherwise people walking past me in the street would just be looking directly into my bedroom like I was in a fishbowl. And I thought, this is why you do things in advance, you know? But back to the story. I think that our intuition sometimes is so bloody strong that we don't even listen to it. We don't even realize, you know, your intuition is going, hey, no, this is probably a really bad idea. And I don't know why, but I'm sensing something in the universe that is not shifting in our direction and it's not going to be good. I mean, the radio was telling you the entire time that something awful was going to happen. Like, it's really not funny. And somebody's watching me. Like, it is quite a creepy song. But again, when a song is just released, they tend to be played ad nauseum on the radio. And, you know, so I'd be just thinking, oh, this is just a popular song at the moment. But then if I ended up in that Hills of Eyes type trailer park, I'd be thinking to myself, you know what? The radio was right. Somebody is watching me. It's time for me to go. I'm listening to my intuition. But there's very little you can do about that when you're a literal child. And it does sound like having those cans stacked up on the floor as like a warning mechanism really did help, really did work, because otherwise you guys would have been asleep, right, and might not have noticed when this man came into your trailer. It really does sound like you had a lucky escape, and the moral of the story is always trust your intuition.
Stop! Before you drag yourself to that coffee pot tomorrow morning, try this instead. Tonight, fill a shaker with water. Add 1 scoop of Early Bird and put it on your nightstand. When your alarm screams at 5 a.m., drink it first. What happens next will shock you. Your brain doesn't gradually wake up, it switches on. The fog vanishes, you're not surviving your morning, you're conquering it. This blood orange mimosa ritual turned more than 1,000 night owls into morning warriors this week alone. Get yours at clubearlybird.com and use code NEVERSNOOZE for 20% off.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/ACAST today.
If you're a smoker or vapor ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
And our second story today comes from David, who sent in his story for spooky season specifically, but we just missed the cutoff point for 31 Days of Terror. With spooky season just around the corner, I thought it would be a good time to share what happened to me and a group of friends at Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The four of us rented out Waverly Hills for the night so we could do some ghost hunting. If you've never been, the building is rather imposing, if not downright spooky at dusk. We were the only ones there except for the night tour guide, who was ostensibly there to help if we needed anything but spent most of the time in the office drinking vodka. He guaranteed us that we would have an active night, based on the vibe when he walked in. I was sceptical, but hopeful at the same time. One of the first rooms he showed us had some various knickknacks on a table and had previously been inhabited by two sisters back when it was a TB hospital. One sister had passed away from the disease there, while the other one went on to live a full life. As he was explaining this, the walkie-talkie on my friend's belt squawked with static, and maybe a voice. But it was on a private channel, and I had the only other one, and I hadn't touched it. We kind of chuckled off the scare, and he continued giving us information about stuff that happens. Trying to get a response, one of my group asked, "Do you miss your sister?" At which point I got full body chills and an inexplicable wave of sadness, which all passed within moments. Not evidence per se, but a strong personal experience. The most active area we found was the so-called body chute. The guide took us there with just flashlights to light the way. Even my 1000 lumen light couldn't penetrate to the bottom of the tunnel. There was a heavy, almost malevolent feeling in the air, and I was getting uneasy, but still not really expecting anything. We all turned off our flashlights, and the guide asked if there was anything in the chute that wanted to communicate with us tonight. Almost immediately there was a loud snapping noise, like something had struck the roof of the tunnel further away. He said again, "If that was you, make another noise." Once again that noise came, but from closer this time. Not wanting to waste this moment, he asked it a third time to make another noise, and this one came from a few feet behind us. We all jumped. The guide yelled out, "Are you trying to surround us?" At this point, my survival instincts kicked in and I turned on the light, hollering at the guide for asking a question like that. We called it good for now and left to go explore the rest of the building. On the 4th floor, a ball appeared in the middle of the floor that wasn't there when we were given the tour, so we filed that bit of information away for later. The story is, if you roll a ball down a hallway, a ghost child will roll it back. I found that to be unlikely, but thought it would be cool if it happened. Turns out I was wrong. Later that night, me and another guy were downstairs on the 2nd floor getting a drink of water, and the other half of our team was up on the 4th floor trying to make something happen with the mysterious ball. I walked out into one of the wings with my friend, just chatting, not expecting anything to happen, when suddenly I hear this rubbery sound, and a ball comes rolling at speed out of the darkness and grazes my foot. Let me tell you, my soul left my body for a moment, and I let out a strangled yell and screamed, "The ball!" with as much voice as I had left. Before you all get too excited, it was my friends playing a prank on me. The bastards were hiding in a room around the corner and started laughing, much to my relief. If it hadn't been them, I would have ran to the exit and left and never looked back. There were a few more minor experiences and a major scary one that you really had to be there for. Overall, I'd have to conclude that there is something in that building. If that were me in Waverly Hills and a ball rolled towards me, there wouldn't even be the time for me to realise that it was my friends playing a prank, because I think I just would have spontaneously combusted. Or, like David said, I would have ran and never looked back. The more I hear about Waverly Hills and people's experiences there, like even though, you know, it's not kind of ghost adventures, there's a demon experiences that David and his friends had, right? It's paranormal experiences that are strange and that are really interesting and that are worth trying to like understand and trying to debunk and all of that jazz, right? That is the kind of shit that happens on Paranormal Investigations. The real kind of shit that happens on Paranormal Investigations. And it sounds like Waverly Hills is full of it. I would love to go to Waverly Hills and I would love to spend the night, but I do think I'd be actually genuinely really scared based on everything that I know about Waverly Hills and have heard about Waverly Hills. And I'm pretty sure, speaking of Ghost Adventures, that it was the Waverly Hills episode of Ghost Adventures where Zach I think they're walking down that body chute and a shadowy arm reaches out and grabs him. And I always thought it was like the most terrifying moment in Ghost Adventures and the most terrifying piece of evidence from Ghost Adventures, genuinely. And it sounds like there is a constant sort of crackly atmosphere in Waverly Hills that people seem to experience when they go. Add it to my list of places, paranormal places that I need to visit, because it is the one of the only kind of hospital, asylum, sanatoriums that I'm really like, I would love to go there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Gary and David for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from September the 15th, 2025. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.